For years, this Hollywood powerhouse has been seen as untouchable, a self-made empire, endless influence, and a reputation built on success stories. But now, a second lawsuit is threatening to crack that image wide open. Not from a rival. Not from a studio. But from someone who claims their career began with a promise and spiraled into something far darker. The lawsuit demands tens of millions of dollars, points to alleged behind-closed-doors encounters, and raises a question fans are suddenly asking everywhere: is this a pattern or just another accusation fighting for attention? What makes this moment even more explosive is who's behind the claim, how far back it allegedly goes, and why this isn't the first time these accusations have surfaced. And according to the complaint, the most disturbing details were never meant to leave the room. But that was only the beginning. He wasn't a household name. No viral moments. No major credits. Just a model trying to break into Hollywood the same way thousands of others do every year. According to court filings, his path into the industry didn't start at an audition or casting call. It allegedly started at a Los Angeles gym. The complaint claims a trainer approached him mid-workout with a surprising message: a powerful filmmaker wanted to meet him. Not weeks later. That same day, a phone call allegedly followed, and with it came an opportunity that sounded almost too easy to ignore: a small role in an upcoming movie and the promise of more to come. That role would eventually land him a brief appearance as a college frat guy in a major studio release. Small on screen, but massive for someone trying to get noticed. And according to the lawsuit, the conversations didn't stop with that role. They continued privately, shifting from professional encouragement into something far more personal. What looked like a lucky break, Rodriguez claims, was actually the moment his career became tied to someone with far more power than he had ever faced before. And that's where the story takes a turn no one saw coming. According to the lawsuit, things allegedly moved off the public radar just weeks later. He claims he was invited to a private home in Los Angeles, no assistants, no agents, no third parties. Just drinks, a movie, and what was presented as a relaxed, professional hangout. But the complaint says the atmosphere shifted quickly. What was supposed to be casual allegedly turned uncomfortable, with unwanted physical closeness and comments that caught him off guard. He claims he tried to laugh it off, change the subject, even physically create distance, subtle signals meant to keep things from escalating without causing a scene. That's when, according to the filing, the power imbalance became impossible to ignore. He alleges the behavior continued despite clear discomfort, with repeated attempts to reassure him that everything was okay. And as the night went on, he claims the focus drifted further away from work and deeper into territory he never agreed to enter. He says he eventually removed himself from the situation entirely. But according to the lawsuit, leaving the room didn't mean leaving the pressure behind. Because what allegedly happened next followed him long after that night ended. According to the complaint, that first night wasn't the end of it. He claims the behavior continued, not all at once, but gradually, spread across private dinners and invitations that blurred the line between mentorship and expectation. Each meeting, he alleges, carried the same undertone: encouragement mixed with pressure. The lawsuit claims comments began surfacing that tied personal closeness to professional security. Phrases about being taken care of, about never having to worry again, about loyalty being rewarded. Rodriguez alleges he tried to redirect the conversations back to work every time, treating the remarks like jokes he hoped would fade away. But he claims they didn't. Instead, the advances allegedly became more direct, paired with subtle questions that forced him into an impossible position: comply and risk crossing a line, or refuse and risk losing everything he'd just gained. According to the filing, he chose refusal. Again. And again. And that decision, he claims, marked a turning point. The promises stopped. The warmth cooled. And suddenly, the future he believed was being built for him seemed to vanish overnight. Because according to Rodriguez, rejection came with a price he never expected to pay. According to the lawsuit, once those advances were turned down, everything changed. The roles he believed were coming never materialized. The calls slowed. The opportunities he says were once promised quietly disappeared. What had felt like momentum suddenly became silence. Then comes one of the most talked about claims in the filing. Rodriguez alleges that after rejecting the advances multiple times, he was unexpectedly given cash, $5,000, allegedly placed into his pocket. The complaint frames this moment not as generosity, but as something deeply uncomfortable, leaving him confused about the message it was meant to send. He claims the money didn't come with clarity, closure, or future work. Just an unspoken understanding that the door he thought was open had quietly closed. According to the lawsuit, that moment stayed with him not because of the amount, but because of what it symbolized. In his telling, it marked the end of any professional relationship and the beginning of years of frustration, unanswered questions, and a career that never moved the way he believed it would. But while those allegations paint a damaging picture, the response from the other side was swift and far from sympathetic. The response didn't take long. Through his attorney, Perry flatly denied the allegations, dismissing the lawsuit as nothing more than a failed money grab. The statement didn't just reject the claims, it questioned the timing, the motives, and even the legal team behind them. His lawyer pointed out that the same attorney is representing another accuser in a separate case, suggesting a pattern of opportunistic litigation rather than misconduct. The message was clear. These allegations, according to Perry's camp, are recycled, exaggerated, and destined to fail. No apologies. No hesitation. Just a firm stance that nothing improper ever happened. The statement framed the lawsuit as a reach into the past, dredging up events from more than a decade ago in hopes of a massive payout. But that public denial didn't quiet the conversation. In fact, it did the opposite. Because once a second lawsuit enters the picture, people start asking whether coincidence is enough to explain it. And that's where this story grows bigger than one accusation and far harder to ignore. Once news of the lawsuit spread, the conversation didn't stay in the courtroom, it exploded online. Fans immediately began drawing connections, not because of a verdict, but because of a pattern they say feels familiar. Two separate accusers. Similar claims about power and opportunity. And notably, the same attorney representing both cases. On social media and Reddit threads, people are debating whether this points to something systemic or if it's simply coincidence being amplified by the internet. Some argue that multiple allegations deserve closer scrutiny. Others push back, saying accusations alone shouldn't outweigh decades of success and philanthropy. The divide has been loud, emotional, and relentless. Adding fuel to the discussion is the fact that the lawsuit also names a major studio partner, claiming they knew about alleged issues and failed to act. Adding fuel to the discussion is the fact that the lawsuit also names a major studio partner, claiming they knew about alleged issues and failed to act. That detail alone has shifted the focus from one individual to the broader question of how much studios are responsible for what happens behind closed doors. None of this has been proven in court. But the volume of speculation shows just how quickly public perception can shift once more than one story enters the spotlight. And with both sides standing firm, the next phase of this case could determine whether this moment fades away, or becomes something much bigger. For now, everything remains unresolved. No verdict. No settlement. Just two sharply opposing stories moving slowly through the legal system. One side insists the allegations reveal a troubling abuse of power. The other says the claims are baseless and driven by money. What happens next won't just impact the people involved. It could shape how Hollywood responds when influence, access, and ambition collide behind closed doors. Because once multiple lawsuits enter the conversation, silence is no longer an option. Whether this case quietly disappears or becomes a defining moment will depend on what evidence surfaces, how the courts rule, and how much weight the public gives to accusations versus denials. And until that happens, one thing is certain: this story isn't over. And the industry will be watching every move that comes next.